Hello, everybody, and welcome to Kev's Movie Corner. I, of course, am Kev, and this week we are talking about MASH. MASH was released in 1970, and was the precursor to the popular television series by the same name. It is about a medical hospital during the Korean War, and focuses on a couple of doctors who basically use comedy and hijinks to get through the fact that they're in a war zone. It stars Donald Sutherland, Elliot Gould, Tom Skerritt, Robert Duvall, and Sally Kellerman, which is a different cast than what was on the television show. Actually, the one of my favorite characters on the show was Radar, because I'll talk about that here in a second. He actually was in both, so he was in the television show or the movie, and then in the television show as well. It is a I never watched the movie. This is the first time I've ever watched this movie. I never watched a bunch of the television show either, but this makes me want to go back and watch and actually watch the television show. It's extremely comical. There's a lot of randomness to it. So and it's a lot of slapstick comedy. There's a lot of just dumb jokes, just kind of dumb things that happen through the whole thing. I said that Radar was one of my favorite characters. He doesn't show up in the movie a lot. He just comes in a couple times, and it's the whole shtick is that he just basically talks at the same time as his commanding officer and says almost the exact same thing, but like half a second off. So it's just kind of a funny little joke that kind of goes through the whole thing. It's a relatively short movie. It's about a little under 2 hours. There is a couple scenes that I thought were, well, one scene in particular that I thought went on for a long time was a football scene. When they're playing football, it seemed like that went on for quite a long time. But the movie, like I said, it's a really funny one. There's of course, that went on to they went on to produce the television show with Alan Alda playing Hawkeye. A couple years later, that ran from 1972 to 1983. So for 11 seasons, and until even to this day, the series finale of MASH in 1983 holds the record for the highest percentage of televisions in the U.S. that were watching it at the same time. So there was more than 60% of people, or more than 60% of televisions in the United States were watching that season finale in February of 1983. And it's actually the only television show that's on in the 20 highest average viewers as well. With there was 105, almost 106 million people that watched that an average watched that episode, which is number 11. The only other things that are on this list of 20 are Super Bowls. So it's in rare air altogether. It's a lot of fun. It's kind of dumb, so be prepared for a dumb humor. Be prepared for a lot of dumb humor, because it's just kind of and it's kind of all over the place. There are a bunch of moments where it jumps from one thing to another. It'll jump from them being in an operating room to them being at a bar to them being at, it just kind of jumps around a lot. Um, the song is pretty iconic too. It's called "Suicide is Painless," which is a weird. I always, whenever I did see the open of the show when I was younger, especially, I heard that kind of slow song. It didn't make sense to why that would be the theme song for a supposed a comedy, a sitcom. Um, it makes a little more sense. They actually play it in the middle of this movie, in a scene where they're trying to trick a guy basically out of committing suicide, which is, I mean, it's an elaborate hoax in the whole thing. So it's also played off as a joke in this, which suicide is of course not a joke, but it's kind of made out to be in the movie at one point. Um, there is some. It is rated R. A there's a good amount of. There's not really that much cussing. I don't believe it didn't seem like it. The big thing that I noticed that would give it any sort of or the reason that I believe that it got the rating that it did, would be the gore. There's a lot of like you don't see anything in particular, but there's um, a lot of what you can tell is blood and things when they're doing surgery on people, which is um, a pretty common thing in this movie. Um, and it's just there's just some really dumb things that happen in this movie that make it a lot of fun and something that I think people should watch. Um, I do agree that I mean, it's my type of movie, so I understand why it's on this list. It did again spawn the television show, which ran for so long and was so iconic. Um, as far as the um, AFI list, which is what we've been going off of, it is number 54. It is actually gained 2 spots on the list from when it in the 10th anniversary from when it originally came out in 1997. So the last version of this list in 2007, it was number 54. So I I think there's movies that have been higher on here that I would watch this over again. I would watch this again over the other movies. But each to their own. Um, I do recommend it if you want to watch it. It's something fun. There's especially if you want to see a comedy that's just something lighthearted. Just be ready for some randomness. But yeah, I think that's all I got for you guys this week. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll talk to you next week.